Hi, everyone. I'm Kat Mortensen from Our America, and I'm so pleased to be joined today by my colleague, the Our America National Director, Gabrielle Nadales, who I'm sure you all know. Gabrielle recently wrote a blog with the title that's, I think, very provocative: Why I Don't Want a DOGE Refund. Gabrielle, explain to us why this is a bad idea.
Sure thing. I mean, one of the great things about Elon Musk is that he's cutting down a lot of government inefficiency. There's a lot of contracts that the U.S. government should not be spending money on. I believe that some of the programs are $36,000 to give money or to create an LGBT comic book in South America. There's a lot of like millions of dollars that are going to DEI causes or things that are just very anti-ethical to American values. But at the same time, Elon Musk has suggested that a lot of this money should go back to American taxpayers in the form of a stimulus check. Some estimates put it at $5,000, while others have $8,000. But one of the problems with that is the fact that America is in debt. Despite the fact that Elon Musk and his DOGE program have cut over $100 billion in government waste, we still spend over $1 trillion over the U.S. budget, well over that. So we haven't even made a dent to how much money is actually we need to be able to cut from the U.S. government. And the problem is that if we start getting stimulus checks, such as like when we did back in 2021, 2022, under the Biden administration, we're going to see inflation skyrocket yet again. What we need is to make sure that the government runs a balanced budget and then lower taxes, ensuring that we're able to pay our debt and people can keep more money in their pockets. But we don't need government stimulus money going back into Americans until the debt is paid off.
So, as you indicated, during COVID, families and individuals got these COVID checks and they were really excited in the moment. My daughter, who was a broke college student at the time, went out and bought a new bicycle. But the consequences long term were actually disastrous. I mean, what did we see?
I remember getting those thousands of dollars in my bank account. I saved them. But one of the things that we saw is they were one of the major contributors to inflation, the inflation that so many Americans are dealing with today. I mean, back in 2020, I still remember when eggs were about $1.25 a dozen. Now the cheapest you can find eggs are $5 or $5.50, depending on where you live, where you are. Eggs are incredibly expensive. Now there are a few different contributors to why eggs are getting more expensive, but the stimulus checks were a major contributor to inflation, because what happens when you give a government money to people? Well, all of a sudden in the short term, people think, well, I have more money in my pocket, but that creates more demand. And when you have more demand, you have less supply. And when you have less supply, the best way to be able to balance all of this is to increase prices. So just like we saw with eggs, just like we saw with food, with cars, with everything, really, but virtually every single thing, it is more expensive. It became more expensive because of those stimulus checks. And the DOGE checks would be the same thing. You would actually have less money. You would have more money in terms of zeros, but that money would be worth less.
And in your blog, you write about you think it's a positive thing that we try to reduce the size and scope of the federal government and limit the spending. But you have some suggestions for what we can do sort of structurally moving forward that would be a much better way to allocate these DOGE refunds. What are your suggestions?
Of course, the DOGE refunds really shouldn't be refunded at all until you get rid of the national debt. There is $36 trillion or something like that in the national debt. And when I was in college about 10 years ago, I remember when people were talking about $12 trillion, and that wasn't astronomically high. But now it is $36 trillion, and it's only getting more bigger and bigger. And you have to be able to cut that, because every single American taxpayer owes $100,000 in the national debt. Like, I don't have $100,000 in my bank account, And even if I did, if I were to give that to the government, that still wouldn't make much of a difference. What we need to do is reduce the size of the government so they don't spend trillions of dollars in excess of what they really have. I mean, when you really look at it, and you know, it's like America has a credit card that needs to be taken away and needs to live within its means.
Oh, that must be your dog I heard in the background. Well, I really appreciate you walking us through your blog and giving us some sort of common sense insight into some of the negative outcomes, right? If we were all to get these bonus checks. So thank you again. The blog is, and I'll pull that screen up, Why I Don't Want a DOGE Refund. You can check it out at ouramerica.org. And you can look for more ways to get involved and be a part of this great organization. So any final words, Gabe, before we close out?
Of course, people need to check out ouramerica.org, join ouramerica.org, and, you know, just get involved with what we're doing.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time on another Our America video.
Of course.